Yo, what's good? Welcome back to another episode of Levitation, the Sunday series, and we back with another one. We back with an amazing one. We back with an exceptional one. We using all kinds of words. It don't matter what words we use as long as it bless you. Let's get into it. There are so many things we can place our hope in. We can place our hope in ourselves, in our resources, the government. I don't know who's doing that these days, but some people still do, and other people. And to be strictly honest, everything that we put our hope in besides God is a flawed place to put our hope in. It's actually pretty ironic. The things that are the most tangible, right? Our money, our cars, our resources, all of these different things that we can feel, we can see, we can experience with our five senses. Actually, those things are less likely to be a safe place to place your hope. And the reason why those things are in a good place to place your hope in is because at some point in your life, those things will fail. Even yourself, you're gonna fail yourself. Your money won't always be enough, so that's gonna fail you. Your resources and your connections won't always be enough, so that's gonna fail you. Your education and your degrees won't always be enough, so that can fail you. Other people, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friend, your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife, your husband, your cousin, anybody who is possibly on this earth will fail you. And I don't think that's a new concept to us. I think we all have a good understanding that failure will happen. But what I want to focus on is a specific part that we have a little trouble in, including myself. See, we have an understanding that our expectations won't always be met. When our money fails, when our resources fails, when our network fails, even when we fail ourselves, in that failure, we still give grace. We bounce back. If your money fail you, that don't stop you from going after money. When your resources fail you, that don't stop you from acquiring more resources. When you fail you, usually you are down on yourself a little bit, but then you bounce back. And all that's good. But in today's society, I'm seeing a promotion of a lack of grace given to other people when they fail. We are so quick to cut people off for the slightest inconvenience. First thing they do that you don't like, now you questioning their whole existence. I know this very well because I was caught up in it. I would interact with people hoping that the relationship or the friendship would bring peace, joy, and love. And when those people failed me, my hope in them decreased until I lost faith in them as a partner or a brother or a friend or family. I started to go to God with it. I'm like, God, everybody is failing me. And what God had to open my eyes to, He said the reason why your hope in them is decreasing is because your hope isn't supposed to be placed in them anyway. Your hope, your faith is supposed to be in me, not other people. And see, I'm a debater. God knows me. If some of my friends know me, I like to debate. I need proof. I need it written somewhere where I can see it. And God politely directed me to the perfect example in the Bible, which is Yeshua, Jesus Christ. And then He opened my eyes to be able to see that His disciples that He chose were far from perfect. And when Jesus chose them, He knew they weren't perfect. He knew all of their flaws, and He still chose them. There's many examples in the New Testament where Jesus is teaching, or after He performs a miracle, the disciples, His close partners, failed to get the message, failed to get the point of it. And I like how the Bible depicts Jesus because it didn't show Him to be this person just super tolerant. It shows that He got frustrated. He got frustrated with Him a lot of times. Despite His frustration, He never cut him off. But then God took me to one of Yeshua's toughest moments in the Garden of Gethsemane. He takes all the disciples to the garden, but then He chooses three partners, Peter, James, and John. And they go into the garden, and He tells them, hey, listen, I'm going through it. I'm going to go over here on the side, but I need y'all to be praying too. In Mark chapter 14, 35 through 37, it says, He went a little further and fell to the ground. He prayed that if it was possible, the awful hour awaiting Him might pass Him by. Abba, Father, He cried out, everything is possible for you. Please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine. Then He returned and found the disciples sleeping. He said to Peter, Simon, are you asleep? Couldn't you watch with me even 1 hour? He's asking God to please take this cup away. And then He goes and He turned to His boys and His partners sleeping. They snoozed out. He was disappointed. This is the same Simon that Jesus told a couple verses before that He was going to deny Him 3 times. Oh, if we was in that position, we would have been cut Peter off. Oh, you going to deny me 3 times and you going to fall asleep on me when I'm going through my toughest moment? Oh yeah, you cut off. And then at His darkest hour, when He's on the cross, none of His boys are at the bottom of the cross with Him. None of the disciples were to be found. They all ran. And Jesus Jesus never ended fellowship with any of them. The reason why Yeshua never ended it with any of them is because his faith was in God alone. See, he knew and had an expectation for people to fail. That's the whole purpose of him coming to begin with, is because of people's failure. But his hope, his trust, his faith was in God the Father alone. And then here go me again with my rebuttal. I'm like, well, God, I hear you, but that's Jesus though. He was perfect. You can't expect perfection from us. And he said, no, I don't expect perfection from you, but if anybody had the audacity and the authority to cut anybody off because of that perfection, it was him, and he never did so. He said, with you being imperfect, you should be showing more grace to everybody else because of your imperfections. Because at some point you have and you will fail somebody else. And soon as that came into my mind, all these scriptures just started pouring in. Ephesians 4:32. Instead, be kind to each other, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. Luke 6:37. Do not judge others, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn others, or it will all come back against you. Forgive others, and you will be forgiven. Matthew 18:21-22. And then Peter came to him and asked, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sinned against me? 7 times? No, not 7 times, Jesus replied, but 70 times 7. I had to sit there and think about, what if God had the patience I have with other people, with me? I would have been cut off a long time ago. So when you recognize that God has given you grace on a daily basis, that should incline us to give more grace to other people. And when our trust is in God alone to provide that peace, to provide that love, to provide that joy, we no longer have expectations of people to fulfill those things for us, because it don't come from them to begin with, but it all comes from God. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be disappointed because somebody failed. That doesn't mean you're not going to be frustrated because somebody failed you. Having those feelings are valid, but because your hope isn't in them, when they do fail you, you can provide grace freely. And when you provide grace freely, that falls back under one of the 2 greatest commandments that Yeshua gave us, which is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. You can only accomplish this if your hope is in him alone. That's where all our hope needs to be, in God, because he never fails you. I know society said if they show a red flag, cut them off. Newsflash, everybody got red flags. But if our hope and our faith is in God alone, we receive the grace that he gives us. And because we receive the grace that he gives us, we can pour out the grace to other people. This is Levitation, where we're reaching our highest potential. Stay blessed.